Hello YouTube. Today I've got a 1999 Dodge Intrepid. Customer complaint is that the brake pedal is really hard to press and that there is a loud hissing noise that can be heard in the cabin of the vehicle, especially when the vehicle is cold. The likely cause here is the brake booster, which hides right about there in the engine compartment. This was a pretty common problem back when I was working on these things at the dealership many years ago. Not a terribly hard job to do, just a lot of removing of parts, but nothing overly technical. So let's get started. First order of business is to remove the wiper arms. They have a little cap here that just gets pried off with a little flathead screwdriver or something similar, revealing a 15mm bolt. There are also a number of T25 Torx screws along the cowl here all the way across that I'll remove at the same time. The wiper arm comes off. Sometimes you've got to jiggle it with the wiper arm folded up like this, but in this case it just fell right off. There are short and long screws. The long screws are in the middle and the short screws are on the edges. There's a few more of these screws all along the bottom here. Those need to be removed as well. And these are all of the short variety. So next up is the strut brace. They are held in with 9 of the 13mm bolts here along the perimeter of the brace, as well as right by the wiper motor here. If you have one that starts to fight you, just like you saw there, sink it back in and just go back and forth, up and down until it comes out. Don't want to force these, they'll snap. So you have these longer bolts that go up along the inside of the strut mount there. You have this long bolt for the wiper, and you have these short bolts along the front of the strut mount. The washer hose often is clipped here, but over time they tend to come out. The next step here is to remove the wiper transmission assembly, which is held in by 1, 2, and 3 10mm bolts and 1 electrical plug right at the motor here. You want to be super duper careful working around the windshield, especially right here. Sometimes the bolts come out of the bushing, sometimes they don't. It's not a problem, we'll just work with it. Just keep an eye on them in case they fall out. There's not even really a need to disconnect the electrical portion of it. You could just set it aside like that. We'll remove the vacuum hose off of the intake manifold and off of the booster, just to get that out of the way. And it just simply pulls off, like you saw there. And that reveals 2 13mm nuts. So we might have to use something like this, an extension with a wobbly on the end of it, just to give us better access. I'm not generally on there too tight. The nice thing about this job is the master cylinder, you don't have to do anything with it other than just move it out of the way. It's got flexible hoses here, so you don't even have to crack the hydraulic system open. And there's just enough space to slide that master cylinder out of the way. There is a bracket just behind the 2 nuts that I removed. That bracket basically holds the wire harness in, so just move that out of the way and then pull the master cylinder out. Sometimes it helps to unplug the low brake fluid warning switch, just to get that out of the way. Then the master cylinder can just slide out like this, and the rest of the harness can move out of the way here. So the backstory to this car is that the original master cylinder was leaking, which damaged the seal on the brake booster. The customer didn't want to tackle the booster on their own, so they had me take care of it for them. So this next step is optional, but highly suggested because it gives you more space and just visibility to be able to access the brake booster nuts, as well as the brake pedal clip. So remove the fuse access panel here, and then remove 2 Phillips screws. So once those are removed, this dash panel can come out. It's just clipped in, pull straight to the back. So now you can disconnect the connector for the trunk release. This actually is a parking brake release. And now remove the 4 10mm bolts that hold the knee bolster panel to the dashboard. You can move this out of the way, or if you'd like, you can squeeze these ears of the OBD2 diagnostic port. Got it without breaking it. All right, let's move all this ductwork out of the way. This one's held in with 1 Phillips screw down here in the corner. So once that's loose, it pulls towards the driver's side. That's it, it's just held in like that. The next piece is completely optional, but I'm going to do it just to hopefully get a better camera angle for you guys. It's this duct here, and it's the same deal, you just pull it. The next thing we're going to mess with is the clip that holds the brake booster to the brake pedal. All right, so let's see if we can get that. So rotate it. It's got a lock tab, kind of, that keeps it from sliding off of the pin here. What we want to do is we want to pry that above the pin here. And once we have it pried up above the head of the pin, we can slide it out. There you go. Hopefully you caught that, but here's what that clip looks like. Just want to get that ear over the head of the pedal pivot. And from here, we'll remove the 13mm nuts. Here we'll need that long extension again and deep socket. Thankfully, these are never really that tight. So all 4 nuts are out. That means the brake booster is about ready to fall out from the firewall. So the last thing we'll do here is we'll just get the brake pedal out of the way. And we also have to deal with the brake switch here, which I'll show you in a little bit. So now we just carefully massage this thing out of there. Out she comes. Surprisingly enough, my local O'Reilly's Auto Parts had a remanufactured brake booster in stock. So there's the part number. And here's the new booster. So what I'll do is I'll compare it with the existing one to make sure it's the same thing. And we'll get that firewall seal replaced. All right, so we got that transferred over. I'll move the old booster aside. You can hear this thing has liquid in it or something. Now we'll just offer this back up into the firewall here. This is probably the hardest job of them all, for being honest. Okay, I made it look super easy. All right, so quite literally just reverse our steps, but I'm gonna go ahead and use some white lithium grease on the brake pedal pin here, just so we don't have any squeaking noises from here. Just give it a little coating of something that, just give it a little bit of lube. So we got the brake pedal attached to the booster. Got the four nuts started. And now it's just a matter of sliding this clip on, which is easier to put on than it is to remove. So you just line it up, you keep pushing until it locks. And you can see that it's locked. Just rotate it back the way that the factory had it. From here, we'll tighten the four nuts. So again, I'll use a little bit of this white lithium grease on the tip of the brake booster there that interfaces with the master cylinder. Just want to put a small dab of grease or silicone grease, anything like that. Just a small amount on the tip here. That's all you need. And then, like I said, reversive removal. We don't want to forget the brake light switch or the low brake fluid switch here, wiring. Let's get that plugged in. Finally, we'll get the vacuum hose put on. We'll just remove this check valve. It simply just pulls off. And then hook the hose up to the intake manifold. The wiper arms are labeled left and right, left being the driver's side. And there are marks on the windshield for lining up the wiper blades. You kind of want them in between the marks there. And on this aftermarket windshield, there's a similar mark here for the passenger side. Just be super careful tightening. You don't want to lose grip of your tools and have it slam into the windshield and break it. Make sure it's lined up. Okay, so let's address the brake switch here. So what happens a lot of times is when you're messing with the brake pedal, you'll end up maladjusting the brake switch. And I think technically speaking, you're supposed to replace this every time you do this job. There's definitely a way that we can get the brake switch adjusted back how it needs to be to work properly. So as you saw there, I rotated the brake switch counterclockwise and then pulled it out of its hole. So from here, we see the plunger that every time you push the plunger in, it turns off the brake lights. Every time you release, it turns it back on. In the process of pulling the brake booster out, we often bump the pedal and hit this plunger, which makes it adjust out of range. And then you'll end up with a vehicle with the brake lights stuck on. So one way to deal with this is you can pull this plunger back out with a pair of pliers carefully. So all I do here is I just grab and I kind of just gently pull the plunger out. Once the plunger is out, we can then put it back into its hole. So to reinstall the brake switch, we'll go ahead and fire up the vehicle so that the brake booster has sufficient vacuum that we can push the brake pedal in with our hands. So what we'll do is we'll push the brake pedal in and we'll put the brake switch back in its place while holding the brake pedal down. So once it's in its hole like this, we turn it clockwise to lock it back in place and then let go of the brake pedal. Once you let go of the brake pedal, pull back on the brake pedal towards the rear of the vehicle, and you should hear that ratcheting sound, which is the brake switch readjusting itself for the pedal position. You can have a helper help you by pushing on the brake pedal. Make sure the brake lights come on as expected, and then when you release the brake pedal, the brake lights should turn off. All right, so we got the interior back together. I'm just gonna do a pre-trip check, just make sure the fluids are up to the levels they should be, including the brake fluid right over here. And I'll start the vehicle up and pump the brake pedal and make sure the pedal feels okay before I even think about putting it in gear. I hope you found the video helpful. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.